when the greatest in tennis history goes to bat for Alex Eala. Right now, there's a war raging in the tennis world. Not on the court, not in the WTA rankings, but a war for fairness, for respect, and for a 19-year-old girl from the Philippines who is being mistreated by the entire system. And the one who just stepped up to defend her? None other than Novak Djokovic, the 24-time Grand Slam champion, the greatest in men's tennis history, a man who rarely publicly criticizes any organization. Djokovic just broke his silence, and he didn't mince words. Here's what he said: "There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from the Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest. So things like that happen." I mean, you could argue that it was maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule her on a bigger court. Sounds mild? Wrong. Coming from Djokovic, this is a blunt indictment aimed right at the WTA. Alex Eala, the fastest rising Filipino tennis star in the world, was just pushed out of the Australian Open in the very first round. But don't look at the score. Look at everything that happened around that match. A court much smaller than it should have been. Bizarre umpiring decisions. And a backpack incident during the biggest match of her career up to that point. Announced loud enough for the entire stadium to hear. Honestly, do you think this is a coincidence? Today, we're going to walk through every single event, every decision, every detail the WTA wants you to ignore and forget. We're going to ask the hard questions that the major sports networks are too scared to ask. And we're going to listen to what Djokovic really meant behind those diplomatic words. If you're a serious tennis fan, someone who wants to know what's really going on behind the scenes, not just what the WTA wants you to see, subscribe to the Pro Tennis 360 channel right now. We're here to speak the hard truths others are afraid to. But for now, let's start from the beginning of this story. Who is Alex Eala, and why did Djokovic have to speak up? Before you understand why Djokovic is angry, you need to understand why Alex Eala matters so much. Let's pause for a second and put everything into context. The Philippines, a nation of 115 million people, one of the most populous in Southeast Asia, has never had a professional tennis player truly make their mark on the world stage. Until Alexandra Eala showed up. This girl, born in 2005, isn't just the best Filipino player in history. She is on her way to becoming one of the most exciting young talents in the world. At 18, she cracked the WTA Top 100. At 19, she's beating names she used to only dream of meeting. She trained from a young age at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. Far from home, far from her family, far from everything familiar. Competing on her own against kids with better facilities, more support, and higher starting points. And she still rose to the top. When Alex Eala entered the Australian Open, it wasn't just a player entering a tournament. It was the entire Philippines stepping onto the world's biggest stage. Millions were watching. Millions were praying. A whole generation of a country looking up to that 19-year-old girl. And the WTA knows this. They know Alex Eala is not your average newcomer. They know her influence goes far beyond the numbers on the ranking charts. They know that every decision regarding her court, her schedule, and her playing conditions is being closely scrutinized by millions. And then they decided to put her on a small court. Djokovic stated this diplomatically. I'll say it more bluntly. This is disrespect. This is a subtle message that Alex Eala, regardless of her talent, regardless of her influence, regardless of the history she's making, still isn't worthy of the real spotlight. And that was only the beginning. The court issue, numbers never lie. This isn't about a court. This is about the message the WTA is sending. Let's talk numbers for a second. Because in tennis, a court isn't just a court. It's a statement about your place in the hierarchy. The Australian Open has main stages like the Rod Laver Arena, holding 15,000 spectators. Margaret Court Arena, 7,500 people. And then there are the smaller, less prestigious, more hidden courts tucked away in the Melbourne Park complex. Where was Alex Eala scheduled to play? You already guessed the answer. Now let's compare. There are players with lower rankings than Alex, less internationally known than Alex, who don't have 1/10 of Alex's fanbase. Yet they still get scheduled on bigger courts. Djokovic said it politely. Maybe they could schedule her on a bigger court. Translation? They chose not to. And that is the problem. In tennis, the court directly impacts the result. Not because a player is better or worse depending on the surface, but because the crowd energy, the psychological pressure, and the intensity of focus are entirely different between a 500-seat court and a 7,000-seat court. Alex Eala is used to playing in front of massive crowds in the Philippines. She thrives in high-pressure environments. Putting her on a small court isn't protecting her from pressure. It's stripping away her natural advantage. And here is what's truly terrible. It's not the small court itself. It's the hidden message behind it. No matter who you are, no matter how many millions you represent, no matter how important the history you're making is, the decision still lies in our hands. And we have decided that you are not quite at the level to get a big court. Djokovic saw that, and he couldn't stay silent. The clearly in ball and the bizarre line judge. When rules only apply to some, they are no longer rules. The court issue was bad enough. But what happened in Alex Eala's qualifying match, that's an entirely different story. Let's look back at that moment. Alex Eala is in a crucial rally in the first set. She hits a ball right down the line. And here's the thing, that ball was clearly in. The ball mark on the court was visibly clear. The trajectory was dead accurate. Everyone in the stadium saw it. But the line judge called it out. Normally, you'd say, mistakes happen. Referees are human. True. But this was the second time that same line judge made a detrimental call against Alex in the exact same set. And the worst part? When the dispute arose, the umpires didn't handle it according to standard procedure. They didn't award the point to the opponent, which would also be wrong, but at least it's a decision. Instead, they decided to replay the point. If you know tennis, you know immediately that is not normal. In professional tennis, you don't just replay a point because you're unsure of a call. The ball is either in or out. You make a decision and you stick with it. Unless you're trying to navigate a situation where you don't want to publicly admit a mistake. Alex Eala knew something was wrong, and she handled it the way only players with true grit do. She walked right up to the umpire, calm, resolute, and told them straight to their face, "I know what you're doing." No screaming, no throwing tantrums, no losing control, just the cold confidence of someone who knows they are right and isn't afraid to say it. And after everything that went down, Alex still won that qualifying match. She powered through all that noise and advanced to the main draw of the Australian Open. That wasn't luck. That was elite mental fortitude. The backpack incident, a psychological blow executed in public. When a regulation becomes a psychological weapon. Now let's talk about the match that really caught the world's attention. Alex Eala facing off against IGA Świątek, the current world number 2, former number 1, and multi-time Grand Slam champion. On paper, this was a mismatch. But on the court, Alex Eala was playing the tennis of her life. She wasn't just competing with Świątek. She was a legitimate threat. The momentum was shifting in Alex's favor. The crowd was starting to believe that something historic was about to unfold. And then it happened. An official walked out, not for an on-court issue, but to make an announcement regarding an item in Alex's backpack. Sounds trivial? Try looking at how it was executed. The announcement wasn't handled discreetly. It wasn't a quiet conversation in the corner of the court. It was broadcasted loud enough for the entire stands to hear. Loud enough for thousands of people to know that Alex Eala was being questioned over something in her belongings. Put yourself in Alex's shoes for a second. You are at peak focus. You are playing the most important match of your career. You are in the zone that every professional athlete knows is incredibly precious and fragile. And suddenly, a public spectacle in front of thousands about your backpack. Coincidence? Maybe. But if this was random, it was an unbelievably bizarre coincidence. Right when Alex had the most momentum. Right during the most critical match. Done in the exact way that generates the most drama and maximum distraction. Whatever the real reason was, the psychological impact was real. No athlete can be interrupted like that, in public, without feeling their energy flow completely severed. Djokovic saw that. And in the pro tennis world, where every line judge knows the protocol for handling code violations discreetly, what happened to Alex did not follow the standard procedure. What Djokovic said, and what he really meant, reading between the lines from someone who has seen it all for 20 years. Let's go back to what Djokovic actually said. And this time, read closer. So things like that happen. I mean, you could argue that it was maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule her on a bigger court. Yes. But again, she's coming from the Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's big interest. On the surface, it sounds mild, but let's translate this diplomatic speak into blunt English. When Djokovic says you could argue, he is trying to avoid outright saying this is a clear mistake. But in reality, he's saying exactly that, just wrapped in a layer of professional politeness. When he says she's coming from the Philippines, which is now a big deal, he is saying the WTA can no longer act as if the Philippines doesn't exist on the world tennis map. And when he says there's big interest, he is reminding the WTA that millions of people are watching. Millions of people are judging, and millions are seeing exactly what the WTA doesn't want them to see. This is Novak Djokovic, someone who has lived in the professional tennis world for 20 years. Someone who has experienced countless instances of unfair treatment at Grand Slams. Someone who understands better than anyone what it feels like when the system isn't in your favor. When someone like Djokovic speaks out about this, even just a brief sentence in a sideline interview, it is a public endorsement with a measurable weight. Because Djokovic doesn't say things he doesn't believe. He has no reason to personally defend Alex Eala. He simply saw something that wasn't right and spoke up. And in the world of professional sports, where silence is usually the safest option, Djokovic speaking out means a whole lot. Pattern or coincidence? Looking at the history. Once is random. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times is a pattern. Let's step back and look at the bigger picture. The important question isn't, is the WTA intentionally making things hard for Alex Eala? The more important question is, why do these things keep happening around her biggest matches? A court smaller than necessary at the Australian Open? Once. A bizarre umpiring decision in the qualifiers by the same line judge twice in one set? Twice. A backpack incident handled publicly instead of discreetly, right when Alex had peak momentum in her most crucial match? 3 times. Now, I'm not saying this is an orchestrated conspiracy. I'm not saying there are people sitting in a boardroom plotting to sabotage Alex Eala. But I am saying that when you look at what has transpired, there is a disturbing trend that the WTA needs to answer for. And this is where the story gets bigger than Alex Eala. Tennis history is full of examples where players from smaller nations, countries without a long-standing tennis tradition, without deep pockets for tennis infrastructure, without massive fan bases in Western countries, are placed in inferior playing conditions, subjected to double standards, and undervalued even when their achievements warrant better treatment. Alex Eala isn't the first case. And if the WTA doesn't change, she won't be the last. But here's the difference this time. Alex Eala has Djokovic speaking up for her. Alex Eala has millions of followers. Alex Eala has a global platform that previous players in similar situations never had. And that is why this story matters. The reaction from the Philippines and the world. When a nation of 115 million speaks with one voice. Let's talk about what's happening off the court. When the clip of Djokovic speaking about Alex Eala went viral, the Philippines blew up. Not in a negative way, in the sense of a community that finally felt someone was seeing what they've been seeing all along, saying what they wanted to say for a long time. On Philippine social media, hashtags about Alex Eala and Djokovic trended instantly. Former athletes, politicians, celebrities, they all spoke out. Not just to support Alex, but to raise a bigger question. Is this how the WTA treats players from Asia? And that question isn't just being asked in the Philippines. On international tennis forums, debates have erupted. One side says these are isolated incidents with nothing to prove malicious intent. The other side looks at the whole picture and sees a pattern that's hard to ignore. But here's the most striking part. The reaction from the WTA has been virtually non-existent. No press release, no explanation for the court scheduling, no comment on what Djokovic said. That silence, for a professional sports organization being publicly criticized by one of the greatest players in history, speaks volumes. In media, there's a fundamental rule. When you don't refute an allegation, you are implicitly admitting to it. The WTA could dismiss what Djokovic said at any time. They could provide a rationale for the court assignment. They could explain the procedure behind the backpack incident. They could prove that everything that happened to Alex Eala was random and done by the book. They haven't done that. And the Philippines, along with millions following this story worldwide, has taken note. What will Alex Eala do next? And why the WTA should be afraid? She didn't come here to watch this script end at the AO. Let's be straight about what happens next. Alex Eala was knocked out of the Australian Open in round 1. That is a fact. And in the short term, that's a painful result, not just for her, but for the millions of Filipino fans who were waiting for the moment she'd make a deep run at a Grand Slam. But look at the bigger picture. Alex Eala was born in 2005. She is 19 years old. At 19, Serena Williams was ranked 86. At 19, Maria Sharapova had just cracked the top 50. At 19, Iga Świątek hadn't even won her first Grand Slam. At 19, Alex Eala is competing in the main draw of the Australian Open, facing off against the top names in the world, and doing well enough to make Novak Djokovic step up and defend her. This is just the beginning. And here is what the WTA, if they are smart, should realize. Alex Eala is getting bigger. Not bigger in a modest sense. Bigger in the sense of a genuine force in the world of tennis. With tens of millions of fans in the Philippines and across Southeast Asia, with growing attention from international media, with public backing from names like Djokovic. Every time the WTA treats Alex in a way that outside observers can read as unfair, the WTA isn't just creating a bad storyline. They are fueling the fire for Alex and her supporters to demand change, to demand transparency, to demand equally applied standards. In sports, the greatest athletes aren't defined by their failures. They are defined by how they respond to those failures. Alex Eala responded by stepping right back onto the court for her next match, by continuing to train, by maintaining the mindset of a future champion, even when the results haven't quite reflected it yet. The WTA will see Alex Eala again, many more times, for many more years. And the question is whether they will have learned their lesson from this AO. Tennis isn't just a sport. This is a matter of fairness. This isn't just about Alex Eala. This is about the kind of tennis world we want. Let's pause here and look at the grandest scheme of things. The story of Alex Eala at the Australian Open, the smaller court, the bizarre umpiring decisions, the backpack incident handled publicly. All of that matters. But they don't just matter because they affect the outcome of one match or one tournament. They matter because they raise a fundamental question. In 2025, when sports are trying to become global and represent every nation, every culture, every background, do the governing bodies of those sports actually believe in that? Or does global only apply to big markets and countries with deep pockets? Djokovic isn't someone who gets emotional easily. He doesn't speak out about every injustice in tennis. When he chooses to speak, even just a few sentences in a sideline interview, it's because he sees something genuinely wrong. And you know what the most interesting part is? Alex Eala doesn't need to be protected. She's already proven that. She stepped on a court, competed, won the matches she needed to win, and handled every hardship with a poise that many veteran players would admire. But being protected and deserving fair treatment are two different things. Alex doesn't need anyone to protect her from her opponents. She can do that herself. What she deserves is a level playing field. Nothing more, nothing less. And that is what all of us, tennis fans, sports fans, people who believe in fairness, need to keep speaking up and demanding. This story isn't over. The 2025 Australian Open is just one chapter. Alex Eala has many grand slams ahead of her. The WTA has many decisions left to make. And we, the people watching, can make a difference by continuing to pay attention, by continuing to talk about what's right and what's wrong. Do you think the WTA treated Alex Eala fairly at the Australian Open? Or is this a pattern of disrespect toward players from Southeast Asia? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all and will reply to the best analyses. If you want to keep following Alex Eala's journey and stories like this, where sports intersect with fairness, where the real humans behind the wins and losses are truly seen, subscribe to the Pro Tennis 360 channel right now. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. We are here for tennis, and for the tennis stories that actually deserve to be told. Alex Eala is coming, and this time, the whole world is paying attention.